Social Media University. Kat, first of all, I want to start off with how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
You know what? I'm doing fantastic, and I'm excited to pick your brain to both learn from you and also help a lot of other people do what you've done. So if someone were to get you in an elevator and you were about to pitch them, what is Kat all about? What do you do and what are you about?
Yeah, so I own my own digital marketing agency. We specialize in all different types of social media. So if you are a startup, if you're an enterprise, if you are a personal brand and you're just looking to kind of level up or really get into the game that is social media, we're your people to do it, whether it's content creation, digital marketing from a email marketing standpoint, paid collaborations, paid campaigns. Didn't start that way, but we have grown pretty fast. So anything digital that you are looking to put your business on the map for, we're your go-to.
Amazing. Okay, so a lot of people want to start their own agency, but they're in the position that you were previously. So can you explain your corporate experience and then what really drew you or pushed you to starting your own thing?
Yeah, so my journey to owning my own agency is so different than a lot of people's. I actually was never in like a corporate 9-to-5 role. I went to the University of Missouri. I graduated with a journalism degree, so I wanted to go into sports broadcasting. And you being from Toronto, you'll probably appreciate this. So I wanted to work in the NHL. I love hockey. So my first job out of school, I was actually working for the Carolina Hurricanes. So I moved from Columbia, Missouri to Raleigh, North Carolina. I had never been there. It was a very low paying job at the time, but I was so determined to make it work that I was like, you know what? I'll take $8 an hour. I don't care. It's a resume booster. Everybody thought I was crazy. Went out there, just hustled my way to actually being in the bowl, and I was able to be an in-game host and reporter for the Carolina Hurricanes. And then while I was down there, I started working for the Houston Astros affiliate, doing stuff for them as a sideline reporter. And then when I was doing that, I got picked up by iHeartRadio, and I actually got my own show on iHeartRadio. So I was very much into the media side of things. Still loved social media because growing up, you know, when I was getting ready to go to college, that's when Instagram started back in 2012. Wow, I sound old. So when I was growing up, that was like the thing, you know, you wanted to be on Instagram, you wanted to be, Snapchat was really big, Vine was really big when I was in college, and all of those platforms just, it was kind of like my escape. I've always been a very creative person, so I always had such an immense interest in it, and I never realized that you could make a job out of it. Well, when I went to, you know, work in the media world, a lot of those people that were in the positions of handling their social media were a lot older. They didn't grow up with those platforms, so they just weren't unaware of the big reach that you really had. And you know, when Instagram was first around, it was so different than what it is today. A lot of businesses weren't really on it. So when I moved over and I went to North Carolina and I was working for the Canes, I had a chance to work pretty closely with the girl who actually ran their social media. And it was really cool seeing from a corporate side or a big organizational side how you can execute campaigns and how you plan those sorts of things. So I just had such an immense interest in it that it wasn't my job, but I was always had my hands in all the social media projects that were going on. So I was there for about a year. I loved it. I got a really great opportunity in Chicago to transfer my radio show from Raleigh to Chicago, and Chicago is a top 3 market. So it was one of those, I have to go. I would be so stupid to pass this up type things. Luckily, I'm from Chicago, so I actually got to come back home. I hadn't been here in a few years. Like when I was in college, I didn't come home. I interned in LA during the summers. So it was a minute since I've been back, but I was like, this is the time that I need to go. So I came back. I started working for the top hit station here, and then I got picked up by the country station too. So I had 2 radio shows on iHeartRadio. And then while I was doing that, I got picked up by the Chicago Blackhawks, and I started working for them. So again, very intermingled and very intertwined with all the media stuff. And I really did think that that's what I was supposed to do. But no matter where I went, I somehow always became the girl that was overseeing all the social media because my bosses always took notice that my own social media had somewhat of a following. I was very active on it. I always would go the extra mile. And I mean, this was before like Canva was a really big thing or Over was a really big thing. I loved the Adobe suites. I learned about it in college. So like I would take the extra time to literally take videos of myself at the Hawks game, or if I was doing MLB stuff, or if I was at the station, and I would put it into Adobe and I'd put cute stickers on it, and I would do fonts and all the stuff that people weren't doing, but it was a creative outlet for me. But luckily, a lot of my bosses took notice of that. So anywhere that I would go, they'd be like, oh, you're the social media girl. Wait, can you help with our social media? And it was just one of those things, again, that right place, right time, and it was something that I loved. So about a year and actually no, 2 years ago, July 2018. I lost my grandpa, and I had so much going on at the time, and I was very close with him. And because of the jobs that I had and because of the unconventional hours that a lot of media personalities work, I wasn't able to be with him as much as I wanted to. And it was kind of one of those moments where I was like, okay, is this really what I want to be doing long term? Or is this just something that I enjoy? Do I want to be giving up holidays with my families? Do I want to be working long, late hours? And I couldn't say yes to that. So when the time came around and it was time for me to renew my contract, they actually were making budget cuts anyways. And I was like, you know what? This is my sign that I kind of need to bow out. So I didn't have a plan. I left without a plan. And within 2 weeks, I was approached by the owner of one of the largest hospitality groups in Chicago. He is a good friend of mine, but he had also taken notice of my social media and was like, hey, we're going to be opening up I think at that time it was like their 15th restaurant. They had never done any social media, no Instagrams, nothing like that. And he was like, I think that you have a really good shot at really handling all of our social media platforms for all of our restaurants and making it one of those destination spots for tourists coming to Chicago. So I was very lucky. I kind of moved right into that role as their director of marketing for all of their restaurants within their hospitality group. And that was where I learned so much. Like it tested me, and it was a lot. I mean, think about it. Handling my own social media, let alone 15 other accounts. I was like, what did I just sign up for? This is insane. This is so much, from content creation to planning to the ads to working with influencers. But had I not been put in that role, I wouldn't have grown the way that I did, and I wouldn't have learned so much about not only business, but actually managing a team and managing timelines and really seeing what works and what doesn't. Because I think that's the one thing that a lot of us, we're always scratching our heads. Like, what works on Instagram? What works on TikTok? What works on YouTube? It's always constantly changing. And I think a lot of times we want to blame the algorithm, right? We're like, oh, the algorithm hates us. That's why we're not successful. But if you just kind of shift your mindset, look at what you're doing, look at the stats, look at what's being receptive, and you really play to your strengths, you'll see that the needle will slowly start to move. So that's kind of what I did with them. Got really great results, and I started having other business owners in Chicago reach out to me on the side saying, hey, I see what you're doing for, your current job. Do you do this on the side at all? And I was like, no, I've got so much on my plate. I got barely time to make it to the gym these days. I'm not doing any more social media. And it just got to the point where I was getting so many inquiries that one of my best friends, I remember having a conversation with her, and she was like, Kat, this is such a big opportunity. You could go off and do your own thing. And I was nervous. I wasn't an entrepreneur. I didn't go to school for business. I was like, what about taxes? I don't even know how to do that stuff. And I just, at the end of the day, I was like, I really do think I could make this work. And I saw all the work that I was putting in at kind of that corporate setting. And I just kind of felt a little undervalued and underpaid. And I had so many ideas for different things that I was like, oh, I could do this and I could do this. So walked in there, quit my job. I was like, hey, I'm done. This isn't for me anymore. No bad blood or anything. I just got to take things in a different direction. Well, then COVID hit legitimately a week later.
Oh, no.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I just made the biggest mistake of my life. I just walked away. I mean, I was making a very comfortable living there. And in Chicago, obviously, it's not cheap to live. So I walked away from my benefits, my 401k, everything. I was like, I'm done. See ya. COVID hits. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is, nobody could have ever predicted that 2020 would have turned out the way that it did. So I'm living in this awesome apartment in downtown Chicago. I made the decision to move back in with my parents actually during the pandemic. So I was like, I just need to regroup. I need to figure out how I'm going to move forward now. I can't put my tail between my legs and go back to my job. Like, they're not even open right now. Restaurants are closed. So what do I do? And so I moved back out with my parents. I gave myself like a month to kind of regroup and just kind of did some soul searching. And I was like, you could really use this time and just stay stagnant and wait for people to come knocking on your doors again, or you can use this time and get really active on social media, because that's what everybody was doing, being stuck at home, and use it to your advantage. So I chose that route. And so I kind of took a look at my strengths when it came to social media, what I wasn't good at, or not wasn't good at, but what I could have, brushed up on. And I learned how to build websites. I learned how to code. I taught myself how to do like SEO stuff. Being locked in a house with your parents, you get creative. So I started learning all those different skill sets, and I built myself a website. kind of wrote down like a tentative business plan, put together some packages, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to put it out there. I have a pretty good following on my social media. I'm going to see if anybody bites. And within one day of making my website live, I got my first inquiry, and I signed that client right on the spot. It was the coolest moment ever. I remember running downstairs, and now looking back, it's like, my business has changed so much since then. But in that moment, it was like, oh my God, Mom, I got a client. Somebody wants to work with me.
Breakthrough, yeah.
It was just the coolest thing. And I was so fortunate because when I finally decided to launch and get everything in motion, we were kind of approaching the summer seasons, which is huge here in Chicago. We only get warm seasons like 3 months out of the 12. Yeah. So when you get them, you take advantage of them. So a lot of the businesses that were still operating and were, Chicago had kind of let up on their restrictions. We were able to have, I think, like 25% capacity. And so just the ball started to get rolling, and I got a ton of inquiries through Instagram. So I think month 1, I had 5 clients. By month 2, I had about 10. And I just rode high on that momentum, and just, I was working a lot. That is the one thing that I think a lot of people with social media don't truly understand, is how much really goes into it. Like, you see the polished, photo or the final caption or the hashtag set, but you don't see the planning, the strategic partnerships that you're partnering with, or the strategic moves that you're making to grow your brand, your business. You don't see the campaigns, you don't see the shoots, you don't see the long hours. And so I was definitely putting in like 15, 16, 17 hour days sometimes, getting up at 5 a.m., staying up till 2, 3 a.m. working on projects, because I just didn't want to say no to anything. I was like, I'm going to take everything I can get right now, because again, 2020, who knows when it's all going to go away. So I just was very lucky in the sense that I had a really good set of systems in place for my job overseeing all the hospitality stuff, brought that into my new job. And I'll be honest, I didn't think that it was going to take off the way that it did. I was like, this will probably be a side hustle. Maybe I'll make a couple grand every month. Maybe I'll make $500 every month. I don't really know. And before I knew it, I was like, I have myself a business here, and I actually need help, and I need to start running this like a business owner. So that's when I kind of took a step back, reevaluated everything, because at that time when I launched, I was only offering social media management on Instagram. So since then, now we do, website optimization, SEO. I do one-on-one coaching. I do business consulting for businesses that have an in-house person that I will teach them, how to be more strategic, or what type of things that they should be doing to reach their audience. I have products now. So it's definitely flourished within, in March or in April, it'll be 1 year. So in less than a year, it's completely changed my life in the best way possible. But I always just tell people, just take the jump. Just take the jump, because when you only have yourself to rely on, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to let yourself fall.
No. Well, that was a story. I appreciate that. Was so smoothly illustrated too. I appreciate you sharing all that. But first of all, sorry about your grandfather. I'm really close with mine as well. You. So I'm sorry to hear that. And I have a bunch of questions after hearing all that. So first of all, I want to know more about, what was the radio like having your own radio show. That's awesome. What was that like?
Yeah. So it was really fun. So when I was in Raleigh, not knowing anybody, which is so crazy. I've always been kind of like, my family, I come from a huge Italian family. There's like 50 of us. There's literally like 37 of us first cousins, and we all live where I live now. So we're very close, very loud family. And I always joke, like, being in a loud family, I had to find my voice. Otherwise, I would have been forgotten about in the clumps of all of us. So I picked up and I moved, and everybody always jokes that I'm a gypsy, because like I said, I went from Columbia to LA to North Carolina, back to Chicago, and I've just been everywhere in between. So being down there, I didn't really know anybody. And when iHeart had approached me, I was like, I don't want to do radio. I didn't go to school for radio. I went to school for journalism. I want to be on camera. I want to be, breaking headlines, and I want to be interviewing people. And I loved what I was doing with the Canes, but I did feel a little bit creatively strapped. In the media world, especially with sports, it's very much like, this is the angle we're going with. This is your assignment. This is what we need from you. It's not so much the reporter, at least where I was in at that time, me going to my boss and being like, hey, this is what I want to do. He would have looked at me and been like, well, that sucks. That's not what we're doing. So I felt a little bit creatively lost because I was just going through the motions. So when iHeart approached me, it was, I'll never forget the first song that I ever introduced. It was an interview with Shawn Mendes. He had just dropped There's Nothing Holding Me Back. And it was like this just unreal moment. And I was in the studio just with my headphones on, just like jamming all by myself with Shawn Mendes on the line. I'm like, this is the coolest thing.
That is cool.
And it was just very fun. It was just always a very creative outlet for me. You know, you go into those studios, you put your headphones on, you're just jamming out to your favorite music, talking about things that you would talk to your friends about. You get to connect with callers. So, and then moving to Chicago and getting to do it was a completely new ball game because here in Chicago, a lot of the on-air personalities get to partner up with businesses and we get to do collaborations, and I got to go to events. So like I got to go to our Jingle Ball, which again, Shawn Mendes was at, and Alessia Cara, and who else was there that year? I can't even remember right now, but there were so many amazing artists there. Lollapalooza, we got to go and do all the backstage interviews, and Spring Awakening. It was such a fun thing to be involved in at 24, 23 years old in downtown Chicago where I grew up. It opened so many doors for me. And it definitely helped me to find my voice as, who I was. Because I think a lot of times too on social media or on any sort of media platform, I think people get lost in what they think they should say or how they think they should be portrayed. And they kind of lose themselves in the process because, and I see it all the time on social media, like I'll see girls posting stuff and I'm like, that's just not you. Like, just be you, be authentic, be who you are, and people will relate to that more. So I think it really helped me find my voice and who I was. And it helped me come to the realization that wasn't what I wanted to do long term for the rest of my life. And I'm grateful for that because had I not, been in a situation where I was like, ooh, is this really for me? I wouldn't have stepped out of my comfort zone and taken the leap to leave the station, which a lot of people thought I was crazy for. I had left the Blackhawks, I left the station. Everybody's like, you are insane. Those are the coolest jobs you could possibly have. But at the end of the day, it just like was not what made me like feel great inside. It just wasn't the thing that lit the fire under me to keep pushing forward. And I knew that I wanted that. Like, if you're not doing something that makes you feel super passionate and super alive, then like you're doing the wrong thing. So, and every time in my experience, at least, whenever I've stepped away from something that I was super nervous to leave, something better's always been placed in my path. So I'm a very firm believer that if you leave things that are not truly for you, what is for you will come to fruition.
Love that. Okay, so the next question that I have off of that is, so you just mentioned how your experience in radio really helped you develop your voice and get a real solid understanding of who you were, what you're about. For people who maybe can't have that opportunity, how does one go about achieving their authentic self on social media and illustrating that to an audience?
Oh, that's a good question. So I really do think that when you set out on social media, it's always good to have some sort of goal. And even if it's just like, okay, I want to be present 3 days a week, or I want to share something in my life. I think finding something that makes you unique or finding something that you're really passionate talking about makes it easier for you to show up as yourself. I'm a very family-oriented person, and in the very beginning stages of my Instagram, all you saw on my Instagram was my family. Like, I have a little sister who is like my little best friend. I have, like I said, big family. I was raised by my mom, my single mom, and my two grandparents, and I like totally attribute all my success to watching them struggle, but like it made me who I was. So getting on social media and sharing those experiences, I was so comfortable to talk about it because I was so passionate about it. And then the more that you get on and the more that you're like, oh wait, this isn't that scary. This isn't that bad. This is who I am. And when you start connecting with people, and you will have people that reach out to you and they're like, oh wow, like, I came from a single mom and I never thought that I could be successful. You're so inspiring. It kind of ignites something within you to be like, wow, there's people out there that can relate to me. There's education or there's points or tips that I've learned along the way that I can share with people. So I think, again, if you like look within yourself and you find something that really makes you happy to talk about, it's just that much easier to start showing up, and then you'll get the rhythm and you'll feel what feels right and what doesn't feel right. Don't overthink it. That's always what I tell my clients, because a lot of times people are like, I want to get on stories, but I don't know what to say. And I'm like, okay, if you were in front of me right now, I'm your best friend, you're making dinner, what would we be talking about? Like, if you are going on a vacation and what are you feeling? You're feeling excitement. Okay, people can feel that excitement. Like, we're all very energetic beings. And when you get on there and you are authentic and you're yourself, like, people can feel that. People will be receptive to it. So again, I think it's just conditioning yourself to get on, show up, and then, just ride the wave. I can't speak.
No, exactly. And I think you nailed that, where it should be easy, because when you're being yourself, you don't have to think, right? And I think sometimes simply thinking allows for analysis paralysis to set in, and then you don't get the ball rolling. So love that perspective.
100%.
I'd love to ask you about the agency now. So you said that it's transitioned quite a bit since its inception. Yeah. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you made when starting your own social media agency?
Oh, I think every single day I'm continuing to learn. And I think you as an entrepreneur can probably agree with me that there's days where I wake up and I'm like, yes, I have this. I am killing it. This is my life. And then there's days where I wake up and I'm literally like, I don't even know what way to turn. I am so stressed. I'm broke. I don't know what I'm doing. It's like this emotional roller coaster that you're constantly on. And at the end of the day, everybody has struggles. And as a business owner, when I first started, again, because I did not think that it was going to, like, when I first started, people always ask me this about, people who are aspiring to be a social media manager. They'll be like, oh, what's the first thing you did? Get an LLC? I didn't even do that when I first started, because I didn't think that it was going to turn into what it did. I was like, if I'm making $500 a month, I don't need to be getting an LLC. And so, like, little business things that I kind of wrote off in the beginning, like having a welcome packet, having my packages all already in a really great PDF so that I can send them out as soon as somebody reached out to me, having my systems down to a T to where I could recite them in my sleep, knowing what software I'm using, from a scheduling platform to a analytical software, to just all of those little things. I didn't have all that organized in the very beginning. And so as I, progressed, I never wanted to say no, which actually kind of bit me in the butt. I think when you have all this money coming in and you have all these people wanting you, and then it's this great feeling, you're like, everybody wants to work with me. It's great and it's overwhelming, but if you can't show up and produce 100% for every single one of those people that are reaching out to you, you're going to have unhappy clients. You will have people that won't re-sign with you, and word of mouth travels. So in the very beginning, I was just so stuck on saying yes to everything. And I just hit a point where I think it was I want to say it was back in like September. I had like 17 clients that I was all overseeing myself on top of doing coaching, because I'd already added coaching. That's a lot of content, and all of them were like my highest packages. So like, I was creating the content. I was on 3 platforms for them. I was doing email marketing. I was doing giveaways and influencer. Wow. Like, it was, I know you can understand how much that is. It's a lot. And so like, my mom kind of noticed it and was like, you are running yourself into the ground. And I kind of take a step back and be like, okay, I'm missing emails, I'm missing deadlines, posts aren't going live when they need to be. And as much as that sucked to be in that position where I was like, shit, like, I gotta get it together, I need to not do this, like, I need to be smarter as I move forward. I'm glad that I hit that bump so early in my journey, because now I cap myself with clients so that I can give 100%. Like, again, when you're first starting out, you see the dollar signs and you see the people that are coming to you, but you're not or at least me, I was not putting the customer experience first, and I should have been. And so I learned that very quickly. And so now I cap the amount of clients that I take, whether it's coaching, consulting, or full service. And as I've gone through, anytime that I do have a little bit of a lull, or like I get ahead, I'm constantly, updating my PDFs, updating my website, doing all that stuff, because when stuff starts to get really, really busy and you don't have the time, taking 20 minutes out of your day to type up a proposal is 20 minutes that you could be scheduling something else. Or, if you have all these clients and you're not providing 100%, like, they will go somewhere else. This is a very, very competitive market. Everybody wants to be a social media manager. Everybody wants to claim they're a social media expert. And so you got to be showing up. You got to be 100%. So the biggest thing I would say was I took on too much too early. Now I have a team. So now I'm allowed to take on more, but I know my thresholds. So definitely prepare yourself for the ride, because it gets bumpy, but it gets fast. And be ready. Like, even if you think you're going to start something and you're like, I probably won't have any clients for a month or 2 months. If you have those package PDFs ready, it's one less thing you got to worry about. You know, if you know what scheduling platform you're going to use, it's one less thing you got to learn along the way. So the less or more of the stuff that you can cut out so that you just hit the ground running, the easier it's going to be for you to run a successful business.
Yeah. So do your future self favors by setting things up now so that you don't have to stress about it later.
Yes. And be prepared.
Exactly. That's tough to do, but it definitely is super helpful. The thing, so with my agency, I started off more of like a generalist agency and then really narrowed and niched down. It seems like you went the opposite route. So what was the mentality there? Like, why did you want to offer so many things?
So when I first started, like I said, I was just doing Instagram because that's what I knew best. So I kind of wanted to play to my strength. And I wanted to do all industries, which that's not bad, but when you are creating very large scale campaigns for, big enterprises, or you are doing influencer outreach, or you are creating content and you need to step into the shoes of the voice of that brand, you need to make sure that you know that brand inside and out. You need to know that industry inside and out to be, things that work for the beauty industry might not work for the automotive industry. Things that work for the hospitality industry might not work for an e-com business. Like, it's all very different. And so that was one thing that I also learned because, again, in the beginning, saying yes to everything, I said yes to industries that I was like, I've never done this, but I can do it. Like, I can figure it out, and I've seen results with all these other clients, so I can, mimic that with this. And I always have gotten those results, but every single industry is different. So as I have progressed forward now, there's definitely industries that I'm like, yeah, probably not going to touch that one. Not my strong suit. And then there's other ones that I absolutely love. As far as like adding coaching, that was something that I just had a ton of people, sound like such an influencer. Everybody's DMing me.
You're going to ask for it.
I had so many people on social media reaching out to me and just being like, hey, do you teach any of this? Do you have a course? And that's also something that I really want to do, is put a course together, because I wish I could multiply myself and teach everybody, but I just don't have enough time in the day. But yeah, I just had a lot of people asking about coaching. And then, so I added the coaching, and then when I was adding the coaching, I was like, okay, I'm a visual learner, so I'm going to create packets that I give all of my clients for every week, so that as I'm teaching them things, they can follow along side by side. So I made these like 30-page PDFs for a 4-week training with me. So it's a lot of pages. And around Thanksgiving, I had this really crazy idea, because I was doing all these Black Friday deals for all my clients. I was like, what if I sell part of my packet that I put together for my clients on my website, and it's just like some passive income? I didn't do any launching. I really didn't promote it. I really didn't push it, but I worked on Thanksgiving to get it all up and ready on my website, and I launched it on Black Friday. And by the grace of God, I had a ton of, responses from it, and a lot of people bought it and loved it, and it was great. And so that's kind of what lit the fire there to then start creating products. And so then I just kind of looked at what was doing really well on my TikTok, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a sec. One of my TikTok videos went viral, and it was all about my branding guides that I create for all of my clients. To me, it's such a simple little tool that I use to make sure that our message and our copy and our branding is always on point from a 360 perspective. But people who aren't in the industry were like enamored by it. They were like, oh my gosh, how do you make that? And what all goes into it? So that kind of lit that light bulb. I'm like, wait, maybe I can make a template, and then I could sell this template. And so that's kind of what got the product side of things rolling. And I've seen a lot of great success with that. So another piece of advice I definitely have to anybody coming into this industry is there's a million different avenues that you can venture down. You might start off, kind of like what you're saying, just in social media, or just in like media management, but you could go off into coaching, consulting, podcasting, YouTubing, TikTok. I mean, you name it, there are so many opportunities. And yeah, the market's a little saturated, but if you're true to yourself and you're good at what you do and you show up and you're authentic, there's 1,000% room for anybody to get on right now and still make waves.
100%. Yeah, I agree with that completely. And you perfectly segued into my next question, which was TikTok. So you crush it there. And some of your videos, like you said, have gone like extremely viral, right? So can you walk through your content process there and your strategy for that? Because a lot of people are just mystified by TikTok.
Yeah. So TikTok was not on my radar. I was one of the people, and I hear this very often with a lot of my clients. They're like, Kat, I am not getting on the camera and dancing to all these videos. And I was like, I'm not either, because I stink at dancing. So I totally skipped TikTok. And I had a lot of friends that were like, oh, you should get on it. It would be beneficial. Now looking back, I wish I would have been on it, back in March when the pandemic hit, because truthfully, I'd probably be at like 100,000 followers by now, if not more. Like, I grew so fast once I got on. And so finally I put the wheels in motion. I started off and I was just taking my reels that I was posting on Instagram. And even though I don't do YouTube, which is something that I've always wanted to do, I love being on camera. So when Instagram introduced Reels, I was all about it. I was putting out like a reel a day. It was just like my jam. I just love that. So I was taking my Reels from Instagram, putting them over on TikTok, posting them, putting a couple captions, closing out of the app and calling it a day. Like, I wasn't engaging. I wasn't doing anything. And so I did this for about 2 weeks. I think I posted every day for 2 weeks. And I was kind of at that threshold where I was like, oh, every video is barely hitting 200 views. Every video is just like crickets. This is not, why am I over here? I'm wasting my time. And so that's when I decided to take that video that went viral of me creating a branding guide for somebody. And I wasn't even in the video. It was just me kind of showing a tutorial like, hey guys, this is how I keep my branding on par for all of my clients. This is what my brand guide looks like. This is how I make it. And this is the one thing that I will say I was really smart about. On TikTok, you don't necessarily have to spend hours engaging like you do on Instagram. Like, I spend so much time engaging on Instagram. I probably spend 30 minutes total. And maybe I shouldn't say that, but that's the truth. Maybe 30 minutes total on TikTok engaging. And so what I did was, at the very end of that video, I was like, if you want to see step by step how I created this video, comment more. And so all of a sudden the video just started getting flooded with more. So then I created the step-by-step video, and I was like, if you want this free template, comment template below and I will email it to you. Nice. And I was able to grow my email list to over 3,000 people by doing that. It was such a tedious task, which while I was doing it, I was like, oh, why did I think to do this? Because you got to go onto TikTok, copy all the emails, put it in a note, paste it into your email list. But now looking back, I'm like, I didn't even think of having an email list until I was in that position. And I was like, wait, I could move this audience to a platform that I control, where I'm putting out, very, very individualized content right to them. It could go to their inbox. And so that video, I think now is sitting at like 600,000 views. And I woke up the next day, I went from, I think, like 50 followers to over 10,000 within a night. And since then, it's just completely been on an upward trajectory. I mean, even last week when you reached out to me, I think I was sitting at like 20,000. As of this morning, I think I'm at like 33. You would never see that growth on Instagram. And that's the great thing about TikTok. If your content is good, TikTok does not discriminate if you have 10 followers or 100,000 followers. It doesn't, they don't care. If you have good content that's going to keep people on their platform, then they will continue to push it. And the reach, like on Instagram, our content has a shelf life of like 36 hours, sometimes 48 if you're lucky. And then, maybe throughout the weeks, you'll get some trickle-in effects of likes and comments, but it's not as strong as it was when you first posted it. On TikTok, to this day, I mean, I posted that one that went viral December 8th or 9th. I mean, over almost 2 months ago at this point, and I still get a ton of comments on it every single day. So I love that the longevity of your content over there goes so much further. I love that you don't have to think about captions. All you do is put hashtags in the caption box. So that's a really cool thing. And one little trick that I have noticed is, when all of your comments are coming in on your TikTok, say you don't get to all of them, and maybe a week later you go back and you comment, like you respond back to all those comments, it will actually signal to the TikTok algorithm that video is getting traction again. Like it's being picked back up just by you commenting on those comments. So like every Monday, I will go back from all of my videos the past week, like when I'm just like watching Housewives or my trashy reality TV, and I'll just start commenting back on all the comments that I didn't get to. And the next morning when I wake up, I realize that that video went up 2,000, 5,000 views. So that's one thing that I have noticed really does help. And really just being conversational with your audience in the comments. A post on Instagram where, you go to a ton of different profiles and you're liking and you're this and you're that. On TikTok, if you're really nurturing those relationships in the comments, in the DMs, you will see a lot of traction to your account overall.
100%. I think what I've noticed so much about TikTok is that if you respond back to people, they're almost expecting not to hear back. So when you do, it means it's such a big deal, and so many of them will convert if they didn't already. So that's super powerful. I appreciate you mentioning all that. So on that note, what is your TikTok? What's your Instagram? Plug all that stuff.
So you can find me. My TikTok and my Instagram are both the same. It's at cats with 2 T's _corner. And then my website is innovativeinfluence.co, but you can find all of that stuff on both of my social media. But yeah, my Instagram is more so like business mindset, entrepreneur type stuff. And then my TikTok is all tutorials, lots of teaching. I'm always uploading behind the scenes footage of how I run my agency, what makes my agency efficient, how I get results. And I actually notice all the time my tutorials kill it on TikTok. So if you are looking to kind of break that mold, think about what type of value you can provide to people, especially on TikTok. Short, consumable chunks of information that will stick to them, that will teach them something, that keeps them coming back for more. Whereas on Instagram, I think it's a little bit more of a humanized feel. People want to see your face. People want to know you. On TikTok, you can introduce your personality, but if you want to kind of set yourself up for success, pay attention to when you're posting, like times. Like I notice if I post at like 11 a.m., my videos don't do well, but if I post at like 4 p.m., they do great because they get traction from where I am, and then overnight they'll get traction from other countries. But just very informational, very educational. I notice that's the type of content that does really well over there. So yeah, come say hi, ask me any questions. Always here to help.
Awesome. So yeah, like always, those will be linked in the description box or show notes, depending on how you're consuming this. So on that note, you mentioned Instagram a few times there.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear your opinion on Instagram, because a lot of people are saying like, because it's a great headline, Instagram is dying or Instagram is dead. So I'd love to hear your perspective on that question or statement.
What a loaded question. I love TikTok. I love Instagram. Instagram is what, set me up for success with my business. So I definitely think that there are still a lot of room for people to grow on there, to build brand visibility, to connect with people. It's just a lot harder. I don't know if I necessarily agree with the statement that Instagram is dead. I do think that Instagram's reached its peak. That's just my personal opinion. I'm not a total fan of a lot of the changes that they have made when I'm on the platform, and I noticed, something that I did maybe a month ago that was killing it. Now all of a sudden it's not. And I'm like, oh, why'd you have to go and fix something that wasn't broke? Like, come on, Instagram. I just think that if you are embarking on Instagram, whether it's for your personal brand or for your business, put some sort of plan together. Doesn't need to be super intricate, doesn't need to be, mind-blowing. Just literally sit down and write out your 3 goals for what you want to do. Now, it's going to look different between your business or your personal brand, but this is what I do with all my clients. Like, we sit down and I'm like, okay, obviously all business owners are like, I want to make money. Okay, well, how much money do you actually want to make? Do you want to make $10 or do you want to make $10,000? How many units do you want to sell? Really get very granular with your details on what you want to do on Instagram, and then it will become so much easier for you in your brain to process, okay, if I want to sell maybe 10 units of something, okay, well, if I put out maybe 2 reels and then I get on my stories 3 times a week talking about it, and then I showcase the results that I got and I showcase how it looks, I'm talking about it 7 different times. If only one person all those 7 different times buys, I'm halfway to those 10 units, So if you really break things down, I think you stand a chance on Instagram. I think the biggest issue that I see is people copying everybody else because they're like, oh, well, that works for them. Well, that might work for them, but if it's not authentic to you and your brand, then it might not work for you. A big thing on Instagram is know your target audience. Know who you're trying to attract. Whether you are trying to grow your own personal Instagram or a brand or a business, you need to be creating content that resonates with the person that you are trying to get to come to your page. There are over 1 billion people on Instagram. How are you going to stand out? This is something that all of my coaching clients will be like, oh, I want to do lifestyle. What is lifestyle? Is that what you eat? Is that what you're wearing? Is that where you're going? Get very micro with everything that you do so that when somebody comes to your page, like for example, like if somebody came to my page right away, you would know that I am extremely into like positive mindset and healthy living because that's very prevalent on my page, and business CEO Instagram. Like everything on my page screams those 3 topics, those 3 pillars. So if you are somebody that those 3 pillars stick out to you, you will be like that potential audience member looking at my content will be like, oh wait, I love working out and I love Instagram and I want to know how I can kill it. I'm going to follow this girl. But if you are on your account and you're posting your dog one day and where you're going the next day and your phone and the Chinese food you ate last night, somebody's going to come to your page and be like, I have no idea what I can expect from this person and what value do they bring to me. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all stingy. We want to know what's in it for us. So you have to explicitly lay it out there. This is what I'm offering you. This is why you should follow me. And this is, either how you can reach me, whether it's my email or my phone or my website or whatever it is. But be very intentional with your strategy and you can stand out amongst all the noise. It's the people who want to do everything that tend to blend in and then they get lost in the noise.
For sure. Yeah, I think it's the clarity of focus, which is so imperative because Instagram is pretty saturated at this point. So if you make Instagram's job difficult, they're just simply not going to show you to new people because they don't know who to show you to. So I love that perspective. And just in hearing all this, by the way, I had to throw this out there. You need to get on YouTube because you would crush it there. Everything I'm hearing from you say
I
now.
have wanted to so bad. I'm not even kidding, Ben. So I have a vision board. I'm a very visual person in my office. And number 1 is get on YouTube. My goal is 1 video a month. I thought that was very doable.
That's totally doable. Yeah. If you need any help with that, I'm happy to help. I'm a huge YouTube nerd, and I know you'd crush it there. So definitely,
I'm gonna hold you up to that.
Happy to. You owe it to yourself to get on there. So, last question for you. I know you're busy, so I won't take too much of your time.
No, you're good.
My last question for you is: what is an underutilized growth hack that you feel like more people should be doing?
Ooh,
on any platform.
Underutilized growth hack. That's a really good question. I'm trying to think of things that maybe people wouldn't know. One thing that I have noticed works really well, and there are some steps to it, and it does take a little bit of time. The biggest thing with Instagram is we live in a world where we want instant gratification. We want a like right now. We want a follow right now. We want the money right now. We want oh, you're so valued right now. That's the one downfall of our generation and generations after us. We live in this instant gratification world. And it's just not realistic. If you want something, and I tell every single person that I work with, because a lot of my business owners, they'll be like, oh, Kat, it's been a week and we're not, we haven't grown that much. And I'm like, anything worth having and doing correctly takes time. You have to put in the time. I'm not saying you got to live on Instagram. I'm not saying you got to do it for 4 hours a day, but you got to put in the time. So something that I have noticed that works really well for us is, if I wanted to profile scout for my own personal Instagram, what I would do is I would go to a competitor's Instagram. I would look at their top performing posts, and then I would click one of those top performing posts, go down to their comments, and look through all the people that are commenting. And you can actually use this to get content ideas as well, because if you go to another profile where your audience is already hanging out or they have a similar audience, and you're in those comments and you see that somebody's like, hey, I love that you're talking about hashtags, but I don't understand how to do hashtag research. Bing, hello, now you just got a free content idea. But anyway, so I'll look through all those comments, and I will go to each individual profile, and I'll kind of just look around. I'll be like, oh, does this look like somebody that would like my content? If they do, then I will like some of their photos. Maybe I'll comment on a couple. Sometimes maybe I'll even DM them and be like, hey, I see that you're a small business owner. I own a digital marketing agency, and if you ever need any help or if you have any questions navigating this very confusing space, feel free to reach out. And 9 times out of 10, because I am targeting somebody who already is conditioned to like and to be receptive to my type of content, 9 times out of 10 they stick. So that's something, it's like a little trick that I always use, and it's a lot easier than just sitting there and scrolling aimlessly hoping that you find people, because nobody's just going to pop out and say, hey, I want to see your content. You got to go to where your audience is actually hanging out. So that's one thing. I mean, if you really want to start seeing traction on Instagram, I do believe in the phrase like pay to play platform. I mean, if you want instant right now, put some money behind some ad spend or some boosting some posts. But if you're looking to do it the organic way, then that's one of the ways that I go about it.
Amazing. So what I love about that is the fact that you took advantage of the fact that it's like you can be very targeted with it. And you were proactive and you made the action happen. I think a lot of people are so worried about being spammy that they don't do it at all. Where if it's coming from an authentic place and you actually have something to offer of value, like you said, 9 times out of 10, people are going to be receptive to it, and they'll typically be happy that you did if you can actually provide something of value. 100%.
There was a business owner down in Naples that, again, profile scouting, came across her. So I love Vanessa Lau. Like I adore all of the content that she puts out. Everything that she puts out is grade A. So I was on her profile, did profile scouting, and found somebody over there. And I went to this female's Instagram, and I noticed that she did fake eyelash extensions down in Naples. She had her own boutique she had just opened. And so I was like, oh my gosh, wait, I've been wanting to get fake eyelashes. This is really interesting to me too. Like, I know she'll like my content. I like her content. Slid into the DMs. I was like, hey, I see that you own a boutique down in Naples. I'm actually going to be in Florida in a couple of weeks, and I would love to come check out your salon if you have any openings. And so that started the conversation because it was genuine. And within maybe 2 or 3 exchanges, she was like, actually, you know what? I've been looking for a new social media manager, and I would love to talk to you. And she was my second client I ever signed doing that. So if you just come like find a commonality, that's what I always tell people, because they're like, well, I don't know this person, it's a stranger. There is something connecting every single one of us. Find that commonality. And even if, they posted a video of their dog and you comment back and you're like, oh my gosh, your dog is the cutest thing, how old is it? That's genuine. That is a genuine question. That's not weird. That's not spammy. Opposed to just sliding in. Like, I can't stand when people slide in my DMs and are like, hey, Kat, would love for you to come over and like and love my content. It's well, I know you would like me to come and like and love your content. I don't need the invitation. Like, just be a normal human, So if you're coming at it from a very just genuine, just pretend you literally just met this person. What would you say to them? Just be a human, and it will get you very far.
Perfect. Well, I think that was the perfect bow to this episode. So I want to thank you so much for your time. Everyone listening or watching, go follow Kat. Keep up with all of her work and her soon-to-come YouTube channel. And I want to thank you one final time for your time. I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me on.